Well, welcome everyone, and thank you again for joining us here today for the US Superyacht Association's ongoing education series. I'm Diane Byrne. I'm the Vice Chair of the US Superyacht Association and also our Education Committee Chair. It's terrific to see so many of you here today. Our topic is telemedicine at sea, digital technology making a difference. You know, I can tell you from my own recent experience of using telemedicine that it really is making a tremendous difference in how we live our lives. You know, it's peace of mind, first and foremost, for a lot of little things. And considering that I'm on land and I've used telemedicine, I can only imagine that when an owner or guests or crew are far from shore, the way that so many people are really trying to do these days, it would be a far, far more valuable peace of mind and far more helpful in a God forbid situation if there is an emergency. So that said, none of us ever want to think about an emergency arising, but again, it is important to keep it in mind that this is a tool at our disposal. And we are going to talk today, thanks to our friends from Vikand and from Inmarsat, about how the tech side of the world is coming together with the human side of the world to make all this happen. Specifically, we have Peter Broadhurst of Inmarsat and Peter Hult of Vikand, or Vikand, sorry, I keep saying it wrong. This webinar actually is, interestingly enough, a direct result of Inmarsat coming to us at the US Superyacht Association. They had seen some of the earlier webinars that some of you also have been on, and they were really impressed with the overall approach and the goal, of course, to keep all of you informed. So they wanted to talk about how, when it comes to driving innovation in communications and improving life at sea, how they could educate all of you about what they are doing and what their partners are doing. So Inmarsat is our sponsor today, and we thank them very much for this. As you may know, they have a rich heritage spanning more than 40 years, and they enable our industry to stay connected with reliable broadband satellite network and a range of leading voice and data services. So gentlemen, without further ado, I will turn the floor over to you. Thank you very much, and take it away.
Thank you very much, Diane. And you've explained Inmarsat now. I don't think I need to do my presentation. But thank you very much. So yeah, there's two Peters. So let me introduce myself. I'm Peter Broadhurst. I'm the Senior Vice President of Safety, Security, Yachting and Passenger at Inmarsat. I've been with Inmarsat for just over 6 years now, various roles. Ex-radio officer, used to have a Morse key, so I've seen communications and applications come from a long way back to where we are today. 15 years with CTEL, based in California, at the forefront of what I would say VSAT communications, and now we're all here at Inmarsat. Happy to take lots of calls at the end. I've got a very brief overview of Inmarsat and our Fleet Express service. Very happy to be here with our partner, Vikand. We've been working very closely together since before COVID and obviously during COVID. We've been providing medical support at sea for over 40 years, as we still provide a free medical assistance hotline that any vessel, yachts, fishing vessels, cruise ships, whatever, can use. And this is the next kind of level around that ubiquitous digital applications that everybody is driving towards. So without further ado, the basis of this is providing telemedicine, medical support in a remote location. And there's two concepts to that. One is obviously having the power behind the need to have the support, but also the connectivity to provide that medical emergency, and always ensuring that you get the data through. So I won't talk about too much about the application front end. I'll leave that to my esteemed colleague, the other Peter, to cover. But effectively, Inmarsat's job is to support applications, to allow those applications to send data as it says here, promptly and securely to its destination. When you create data, it's your data. You need to make sure it's secure, and you need to make sure it's used for the right reasons. And you need to know that it's going to get where it needs to be as quickly as it possibly can. So Inmarsat's been on a journey for a number of years. We've created this solution called Fleet Express, and within Fleet Express we have a service, one of our value-added services called Fleet Connect, which allows applications to connect very securely, very reliably, outside of any other data that's used on board the vessel. Once you have your data, you need to obviously take it from your device, your computer, your mobile device, a server, whatever is on board the yacht, from whether it's an owner, a crew member, or a charterer, and make sure that it flows across your own network in a secure facility. And we have a component for that, which is an option from Inmarsat to make sure all endpoints are secure, into our Fleet Edge router. Fleet Edge router also has security built in it to ensure, again, that any packet of data that's across there goes very securely. But Fleet Edge, the router that's on board, also allows the service to monitor both the GX link, the high data link in Ka band, and the Fleet Broadband L-band link at the same time, and ensure that that data is transported with a high quality of service across our network. We do that by creating a pipe, which is shown on the left-hand side. Most pipes that you buy in KU band or from other services, even in L band, you buy the customer bandwidth. So you buy, I don't know, 4 megabits by 8 megabits, for example, as a customer bandwidth. And the traditional and the old model has always been, let's force everything down that pipe. And let's size that pipe for the largest application that we're ever going to do. So if we're going to do video services or streaming services, etc., we need a very big pipe. You might need that at the time you do it, but you don't do that for 24/7. You don't do it 365 days a year. So why would you do that? On a yacht, what you need in that customer bandwidth is enough to keep the yacht going. What is it that you want on board that vessel? To send your emails, to do your own things? Because outside of that, and as we're showing here, we have 3 pipes, one for voice that doesn't impact on the customer's bandwidth. The management and support, which is all going backwards and forwards across the pipe, doesn't impact the customer's bandwidth. And what we're doing here with Frontem and the Vikand application is to transport that telemedicine data in its separate pipe. Again, not impacting the customer bandwidth. And because you don't need that bandwidth all the time, and because you don't want to buy a service where you buy a service plus a bit of bandwidth, it's all within the application from Frontem. So you can have many applications in a Fleet Connect kind of environment where we are passing data backwards and forwards on a demand basis in a pipe that does not influence the day-to-day running and the operations of what's necessary for the yacht. And on the right-hand side, you can see a very rough overview of the GX architecture or Fleet Express architecture. So we have a Global Express constellation of satellites, and we have a Fleet Broadband or L-band constellation of satellites. Both of them are up all the time. Both of them are live. Both of them are connected, all within the same package. And we can transport data over either pipe, depending on the availability of those pipes. So if you do have a hardware issue, that antenna's blocked, or there is some sort of issue on board, or whatever that it is, or you have an issue ashore, we always have redundancy built in to the service. The Fleet Broadband backup is always included in the service. It's always there as part of the monthly subscription that you have. You don't have to pay extra for it. So if the GX antenna and the primary link goes down, the secondary link is automatically put in place. Seamlessly, the traffic is transferred. We don't drop any packets. we always transport that packet over there. You may have a reduced bandwidth capability, but you're always going to transport all that data. You won't lose that data. It will always happen. So there's no restriction on that backup. There's no limit on the backup data, and there's no bill shock for the customer. So again, Inmarsat, with its background of providing services to seafarers and making sure we have networks which are hitting the 99.9% requirement, we always look at what we can do to ensure there's an always-on connectivity solution for the yacht. And in some of our competitors, you have to buy two systems from two different satellite operators, in which case you've got two different charges. Whereas with Inmarsat, it's our network, we can see the data over both of them, and so we aggregate that data, and there's no need to buy a secondary service as part of Fleet Express. Also, to ensure that that data is getting through, we have 2 land earth stations per satellite. And the satellite itself, and this is the mock-up that's shown is an actual true mock-up. There is two satellite dishes on the satellite itself, one going to each ground station. So at any one time, if we do have an outage or a problem in the ground infrastructure, we can move packets of data from one ground earth station to another land earth station seamlessly again, without any loss of packets, no loss of traffic, so we can always ensure that the data on board the vessel gets to where it needs to go. So we've built an extremely highly resilient ground infrastructure to support these time-critical applications that Peter will talk to you about in terms of the healthcare solutions. It now arrives on shore, but from shore you need to also have a very highly resilient solution to be able to deliver that traffic to a meet-me point so that our partners and ourselves can deliver that traffic to the provider of the application, to the provider of the services. And in each case, what we do is again duplicate and put layers of resilience and redundancy in place to ensure that we have that full network. Dual mesh links over our redundant ground mesh interconnects. Those interconnects are also going all around the globe so that we have a truly resilient service. The Fleet Edge component of this is where we differ from a lot of providers, and it's where we can add a lot of value, because this is what the way that we operate the system to ensure we're providing the highest level of digital application connectivity. Within the Fleet Edge, we do the switching between the 2 satellite networks that I've explained, but we also host applications and we bring up bandwidth in secondary pipes on demand or always on, so that we can have very flexible solutions for any kind of application provider. And in the Edge platform itself and the hardware, we have effectively dual processors, dual power supplies, hardened security, dual RAID storage. So it's 2 solutions all in one. If one of them does fail, it will automatically fail over to the other one. Again, ensuring you get an extremely powerful, resilient and redundant service from the beginning to end. And that is all supported through assurance data and APIs that our partners can pick up and provide assurance data solutions down to the yacht, so they can see exactly what's going on board the vessel, what's going on board ashore. In that environment, we also host some of our value-added services. So Fleet Data, for example, allows the system to connect to the VDR on board the yacht and collect all the data from that VDR, and even the ECDIS image and the radar image can be shared with third parties or shoreside or with a management company, etc. So you can no longer just track the vessel in terms of like an AIS track. You can actually see what's going on board the vessel. You can see where the next waypoint is going to be. You can see all of the functionality, which is moving towards a solution where we get higher safety which has been adopted by some of the high-end cruise industries, etc. That technology now is available for the yachting industry. We have solutions like Fleet Hotspot and Crew Express, a portal where you can log in and you can have different billing systems for charter guests, for owner, for whoever. You can have, it doesn't have to do charging, it can just be monitoring usage. It can give different capabilities in terms of whitelisting which sites you can go to, what time a crew member can use the service or can't use the services, etc. Very powerful platform in terms of managing the data on board, because a lot of the time the data is not managed, and therefore a lot of people say this is no good, I don't like this, because somebody in the corner is pulling all the data because they're streaming it. You don't have to manage it that way. You can manage it very clever these days. And as I said, Fleet Secure UTM, so we monitor every packet going in and out through the device and over our network, and Fleet Secure Endpoint to protect the cybersecurity of each endpoint. So what I'm trying to provide here is how powerful our service is and how resilient it is. We currently have 5 GX satellites in service, providing over 70 gigabits per second around the globe, and we have 7 new on build. So by the end of 2023, we'll have 850 gigabits per second capacity globally, over 1,000 spot beams, and that's all backed up with 4 additional satellites that provide an L-band coverage, and 2 more again by 2023. This is Inmarsat 6A and 6B. So that, again, a backed up service, very powerful. In most parts of the world, you'll be able to see it 2 satellites. In some parts of the world, you'll be able to see 4 satellites from anywhere for certain geographical regions. And also, you can see is we are launching 2 satellites, GX10A and 10B, that are going to provide polar coverage to the Arctic region. We've seen a number of vessels going up there, a lot of yachts, a lot of explorer yachts heading towards the back of Svalbard and towards the ice cap, etc. We've seen the Northwest Channel open up, etc. for commercial shipping. So we think now is the right time to add that capacity to that region in order to provide high data capacity in that region, similar as what you would get anywhere else on the globe. All of this obviously needs a lot of people behind it to monitor and make sure, again, that you're always on, you're always connected. We have a large network assurance data. Our NOCs are in a number of places around the world. We have primary ones and we have secondary ones. And we also, from there, we also do all of the over-the-air updates, push new beam maps as we add satellites. We have load balancing between beam to beam and load balancing between satellite to satellite. So that we spread the load to ensure that everybody who is committing to a service gets the best service they possibly can. Putting my safety hat on, we obviously monitor all the GMDSS call monitoring, doing that for over 27 years now as the primary GMDSS satellite component. We generate we receive 6 distress calls a day. All of those calls are about ensuring that the Rescue Coordination Center and the search and rescue facilities are connected with that ship in distress. So very much on the background of this, providing telemedicine services through this core network is what we are set up to do. This shows a little bit of a heat map of where we see the services. On Fleet Express today, we have over 10,000 vessels using this service, which for a service that we introduced really in 2017 is really gone very rapidly. You can see where the orange is showing the high usage areas. We use this to predict where we need to put new satellites in the future, where we need to have the beams of our satellites and also the steerable beams to ensure that we have connectivity everywhere. So we cover great areas like the Pacific, we cover the Galapagos, and you get the same service no matter where you are, whether you're in Fort Lauderdale or whether you're in at the tip of the Arctic or the Antarctic, then you'll get the same type of service across our network. And that's one of the powers of Inmarsat. Go anywhere, provide any service. And again, when you're in trouble, if you do have a medical emergency, that's the kind of backing that you need behind yourself. If there's too many vessels in a beam, or one is taking too much, as I said, we can beam load it. We can move vessels from vessels. We can do it automatically in our network management, but we can also do it manually. It's always make before break. So from the provision of the people on board the vessel or the yacht, you don't see any change. You don't see any kind of discrepancy in what's going on. You don't have to call anybody, say, give me a new options file or anything like that. It's fully managed in the way that we operate the system. That's a very quick overview of who Inmarsat is, and I know I'm not the main reason for the call today, but thank you very much for listening to me. I'm happy to take any calls at the end. We have done a super yacht connectivity report. The 2019 one is out and available. We have just concluded the 2020 super yacht connectivity report, and I've got the primary results in. We're just compiling those, and we will issue that. It will be put up on the same site within the next couple of months. So if you are interested in what's going on in your industry in terms of where we see the trend in digital services, the trend in connectivity, the trend in spend, in cybersecurity, etc. It'll all be in that report. So thank you very much. I would now like to hand over to Peter, and he will take you through his side of the telemedicine story. Are you there, Peter?
You got it. Thank you very much, Peter. It's amazing to see the complexity behind providing the global communication for the yachting industry, right? And for us, it's amazing because behind that complexity, Inmarsat have created a very easy connectivity tool to create access to healthcare anywhere. And for us, that is an amazing opportunity that was not available just a few years ago. And this is really where we see innovation in technology, innovation in communication, driving access to healthcare. This is incredibly important in this environment that we're in the maritime industry. So thank you very much, Peter. I think you guys are doing an incredible job to provide this safety support for the maritime industry. My name is Peter Hult. I'm the CEO for Vikand, which is a global maritime healthcare company. We're providing healthcare services to pretty much every aspect of the maritime industry, cruise, commercial, fishing, and energy industry. We've worked with Inmarsat in providing COVID-19 hotlines for the commercial shipping industry. And we really see this partnership with Inmarsat to be a really important aspect of driving healthcare to yachts and other vessels around the world. So Peter, if you don't mind just to flip the switch. And talking about flipping the switch, this is where Inmarsat have done something really incredible. In the past, to set up telemedicine on a vessel, on a yacht, have been a bit of it's not been difficult, but it's always a process that you have to go through. Through this new pipeline, this secure and dedicated pipeline that Inmarsat has available, it is simply just like flipping a switch. So the access to healthcare and the speed to access to healthcare has improved tremendously. It basically is like plug and play, which we're trying to illustrate here. The other thing is, which we really value as well, it's a secure pipeline. So it's a pipeline that does not get impacted by any other activities on the yacht. So if somebody's watching a movie and you have somebody going through a really difficult healthcare situation, one or the other is not going to impact each other. And we have a secure telemedicine connection, which is really important as well. And we're working together with Frontem to that created a really nice purpose-built maritime portal for the healthcare aspects as well. So we Everything that we've created in this space is purpose-built for the maritime industry and fits perfectly within this environment. Like Diane said in the early stage, and I cannot stress this enough, access to healthcare is critical, and access to healthcare everywhere is important. In the US, during this COVID-19 crisis over the past 6 months, many people have experienced accessing healthcare on your iPhone or iPad. This is something that Peter in the UK or people from Scandinavia or Northern Europe have had access to for quite a while, but accessing and making it convenient for you to access care through your normal devices is a critical function of healthcare today, and that is where we're going as an industry. So technology evolution really have improved access to healthcare around the world. And we flip again. So Vikand, which means we can in Swedish, we are a all-inclusive healthcare solution for the maritime industry. We take care of all the aspects from the initial aspects of prevention all the way through to management and engagement when you have a medical situation on board. And I'm going to go through each of these aspects in the following slides. So if you don't mind flipping the switch, Peter. So prevention. Traditionally in telemedicine, we are only engaging when there is a situation. With what we're going through today with COVID-19, with the healthcare aspects of ships today, if you can put together a really strong program on prevention, you will automatically reduce the number of medical cases that you have on board. We have worked with some of the major insurance carriers around the world, and we have realized that having a very strong preventative approach to healthcare, you should be able to reduce your number of claims by 75% and reduce the number of ship diversions up to 33%. Those are estimates, but based on a very strong proactive prevention approach to healthcare, you should be able to create a much safer and healthier environment on board. Now let's talk a little bit about COVID-19, which kind of is driving healthcare issues right now. And in the yachting industry, specifically with private and charter yachts, having strong COVID-19 protocols that helps the yacht manage this situation is really important, both in terms of how you're accepting your guests, your crew, your owners, and how you screen them, the type of PPE that they have to have when they're traveling, and the information when you bring them aboard is really important. And most important is testing. I know you all are looking at testing all the time. Testing is a critical aspect and something that we work on very, very regularly. So the testing methodology that we're looking at is having people tested before they depart their home country or their home city before they arrive to the vessel. And then when they arrive to the vessel, they need to be tested again before they join the vessel. There is good technology available today that you can bring on board your vessel to test people boarding the vessel, as well as anytime you bring guests on board. So this is a very critical component to how you manage your prevention of what you are bringing on board. We're bringing this with experience from the cruise industry, where we managed 8 very seriously infected COVID-19 ships. We work very closely with regulators around the world, CDC in the US, the UK Public Health, and the EU Healthy Gateway in Europe as well. So we bring all of these new standards, these new protocols together, and distill them down to become a customized solution for the yachting industry. Peter, if you don't mind flipping the switch. So mitigation on board, again, you're coming back to protocols. You basically have to create a new culture on board about public health and mitigation. I know some yachts probably will do a better job than others, to be very frank. But the better the mitigation tools, the better the protocols, the better the training on board, and the better the tools that you have to sanitize the vessel, you will be able to reduce the number of healthcare situations on board. And when you're thinking about the healthcare situation on board, if for any reason you do have a COVID-19 situation on board, there is a real chance that your vessel will be put in quarantine, that your guest and crew will not be able to disembark for a period of time. And then there's a whole aspect of engaging the local port authorities, health authorities, as well as the authorities in the guest or crew home countries. So everything in our mind is proactive. We're focusing a lot on prevention and mitigation. Peter, you can flip the switch again. Then on board, we have obviously oversight, and we provide ongoing medical care on board through this pipeline that Inmarsat is providing. We're providing this medical care when you have any kind of chronic situations or any emergency situations on a 24/7 basis. But in addition to that, we also call each of our vessels once a month. We call it our house doctor call, where we're checking in with the captain, we're checking in with the crew, and we're making sure that they're doing well. As part of that, we are engaging in something we call chronic disease management. Surprisingly, chronic diseases represents one of the largest aspects of severe illnesses on board the ship and disembarkation. Coming back to one of the Inmarsat reports on wellness that they recently released, it appears that 80% of people that die in the maritime industry are dying due to high blood pressure and cardiac issues. I got to say that this is an area that we can improve tremendously. That should not happen, and we should be able to bring down that 80% quite significantly with a proactive approach to chronic disease management, where we're focusing on high blood pressure, diabetes, and other aspects of chronic disease issues. We then move into what we call our crew maintenance plus crew loss prevention equals crew wellness. I'm sure many of you on this call today recognize that crew wellness is an important function on board a vessel. But in many ways, crew wellness have a very low priority in the corporate world. But when you equate crew maintenance, when you equate crew wellness to maintenance of an engine, as an example, if you maintain your engine, that engine will go further and it will run faster. So start looking, and I'm not trying to get you guys to think about your guys on board the ship as tools, but think about it as a maintenance issue. So if you maintain your crew and you make sure you have the right loss prevention tools, you will see a crew that will perform much, much better. So we're a very big proponent of good, strong crew wellness through crew maintenance and crew loss prevention. And then part of this total healthcare package that we're offering, we include our WELL program, W-E-L-L, Well Employees Love Life. That is our proprietary mental health program that are focusing on the totality of the mental health paradigm. In the maritime industry today, generally there is a number of hotlines available that you can call when you have a concern of a mental wellness situation. We have enriched that program with having a care component where crew members that are concerned about their friend on board can call us, so we can reach out proactively in engaging with those crew and find out what's going on. As you all know, many times a mental wellness issue is just simply like a balloon. You've been blowing up this balloon, it's about to explode, but if you just let a little bit of air out, you're able to sustain that situation much, much better. Part of the program that we are offering is as well lots of education, both for the shipboard management as well as the corporate management, in how to handle mental wellness situations on board and engaging with your crew, as well as identifying situations and concerns so you can proactively engage. And we have a crisis management educational component as well. So all of that is going into our management component of the healthcare situation on board. Peter, if you don't mind flipping again. Our engagement component, focusing a lot on training, training of protocols, training of public health, training of sanitation, training of how to manage mental wellness. There's a lot of training going in. We provide 24 medical support. Also, when you have issues on the medical side, we work very actively with you on with port authorities, health authorities, as well as the home country authorities. So, we have more experience doing this than one would wish. And I will tell you that, especially with the COVID-19 situation, it's not always that easy to disembark crew or guests and then have them repatriated to their home country. That can take a village to make that happen. Also working then with insurers and of course with the medical evacuation of guests and crew through Medivac and different tools as well. If you can move on. The tools that we're providing in support of this is obviously, you will not see a telemedicine tool because quite frankly, we're using what you have on board. We're using your iPhone or your iPad. We're adding on some peripherals to that. And that in many ways represent the totality of the telemedicine package that is required for a day-to-day operation of your healthcare needs on board. We do have access to further telemedicine technologies if that's required, but generally that is what we think is sufficient for you on board. And it makes it very easy and accessible and affordable for every yacht to have access to very strong medical support. In this world of COVID-19, Vikand has also created a medical network of facilities in ports around the world that will access issues and patients, but specifically around COVID-19, and that the fact that they have access to transportation and access to quarantine facilities. We're doing this based on the EU Healthy Gateway requirements. So this network will be extended to the yachting industry as well. Part of this network, we're working with, working to set up a PCR testing network in Europe as well. As we all know, the PCR testing is a critical function to bring guests and crew onto the yacht. And each of those medical facilities will also provide PCR testing. In our package of tools, we have pre-packaged PPE packages that can be offered to the guest and to the crew. And we have testing technologies that can be offered to have onboard your vessels as well. So there's lots of good technologies available that you can use. Sanitation is critical. There's 3 areas of sanitation: surface, cross-contamination, and air sanitation. So the surface sanitation, we always advocate good, natural surface sanitations. The efficacy of natural products today is higher than many of the chemical-based products. So we always think that you should use chemicals that are not bleaching, not dangerous, food grade, no rinse, and can be applied without dressing up like a spaceman. Cross-contamination is coming back to protocols. That's when you're using your hands. Very important that you always wash your hands and have good hand sanitizers around. But also there's technologies around that can verify that your hands are clean. And we absolutely advocate that you install these technologies to make sure that you always can verify your hand cleanliness, because this is a really great area of cross-contamination, as you all very well know. Air sanitation is an area that is of critical concern today with COVID-19. As we learn more, and I'm sure you all have seen it, COVID-19 is recognized now to be aerosolized, and it will stay in the air for a very long period of time. We still don't have any evidence that COVID-19 is traveling through the HVAC system, even though a lot of companies are looking to install HEPA filter in the HVAC system. Even if you install a HEPA 13 filter, it will not stop the COVID-19. The COVID-19 is simply too small, but what you're doing, you're increasing the load on the HVAC system, which then generates a higher level of energy consumption. So your environmental footprint increases and your cost of running the vessel increases. And again, there is still no evidence that COVID-19 travels through the HVAC system. So we advocate in-space air sanitation technologies that can reduce and kill COVID-19 in place. Peter, if you don't mind pushing on. So ultimately, what we are looking for is a proactive healthcare solution that will reduce the number of illnesses on board and significantly improve the severity of medical conditions on board. So everything is proactive, early intervention, proactive and early intervention. it is the key. And if we can create that, you will create a much safer environment on board. Next step. And finally, we're coming back to connectivity. Again, with the tools and innovation that Inmarsat has developed, which looks very complicated, but for us are very simple, thankfully, we're able to provide strong, reliable connectivity that can help us to create the healthcare solutions on board with a proactive approach to protection of your guest, crew, and owners. That was it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, we're going to open the floor to some questions, and I'd actually like to jumpstart the questions in listening to the two of you. I was very much impressed with the concept of this being proactive versus reactive. I think oftentimes when we think of telemedicine, we're thinking of, and doctor's visits in general, you know, we're thinking of, I have a problem, I'm not feeling well, God forbid there's an emergency. So that's the reactive aspect. So can you, could you give an example maybe of, from a real world situation, and of course, you know, keeping sensitive information, you know, out of it, but can you give an example of something where, say, a yacht took advantage of this proactive aspect, whether it was from the crew wellness standpoint or perhaps even the chronic illness aspect?
We do this all the time, right? So it's very difficult to see the direct result when you're having a proactive healthcare approach, especially when it comes to chronic diseases. And let's say that you have diabetes. And let me just highlight the issue around mental health versus physiological issues and proactiveness. So if you have diabetes on board and you don't take care of the diabetes, for those of you who understand diabetes, you realize that a diabetic could almost get to the point of having almost a mental wellness situation as a result of that. I am diabetic myself. I know that when my sugar is not under control, I can be very complicated, let's put it that way. And so by having a proactive approach to managing chronic diseases on board, like sugar, you will be able to reduce those number of situations where you have a severe, both physiological situation as well as a mental health situation. So that's why I like to use the diabetes situation, because it really speaks to both the mental aspect and the healthcare aspect. And diabetes is a very serious situation. And I will come back to the report, this wellness report that Inmarsat issued 4 weeks ago, that talked about 80% of the crew dying of illness on board a ship is dying because of high blood pressure and cardiac issues. Don't tell me, and I'm not saying you, Diane, but don't tell me that we cannot reduce that number significantly. And that is proactive healthcare. And that is how you engage in terms of education of the individuals on board with wellness programs. And also, if you have a house doctor call, that creating a relationship with the crew on board, our goal is when somebody is starting to feel just a little bit ill, that instead of waiting until they're severely ill, we want to have that relationship where they call us early on for an early intervention. And as a result of that, you reduce the severity of the medical situation.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. What about a scenario where we're seeing now where the yachts are traveling farther and farther afield? You know, the graphics showing the satellite coverage was fantastic, especially seeing some of the more remote regions like Polynesia, the Galapagos, a lot of yachts heading now to polar regions. You know, what happens if a yacht is in one of those regions and has some kind of a situation? You know, how are you connecting them to the appropriate personnel? Are you doing it in a regional aspect, or is there perhaps a doctor, say in Europe or in the United States or somewhere else that they're being connected to? Does it depend on the scenario?
So we have medical staff around the world. So we basically would connect with our primary medical person, and then depending on the situation, we would connect them to our physician and specialist for that specific case. But most of the time, it all depends on where we are. So we have people in Australia, we have people in Europe, in the US, so you just rotate that. It's So it's not geographical, it's more time zone based, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
Yeah,
And most of our medical, go ahead.
Sorry, Peter. Yeah.
I was just going to say that all of our medical staff has maritime experience. So when somebody's calling in, they inherently know exactly what's going on that vessel, right? They know that if you are outside of French Polynesia, they know that they're not going to find a healthcare facility in maybe days away, right? So our medical team are very in tune and attuned to the environment that people experience on board ship and the geographical nature as well. So there's no misunderstanding about the challenges with the remoteness.
Yeah, and we've been, as I said, we've been running a medical assistance line and a medical evacuation line for free for 40 plus years, right from when we first started. But the level of that, because it is geographical, you do get the level of service is very variable, and that's why teaming with Vikand is really essential. I think this is the era where we should have. It doesn't matter where you are on the globe, you have that capability to get the support that you want or you would expect, the same as you would if you were in an office or anything like that. And it also goes down to, again, some of this concept, because a lot of yachts and vessels are remote and the likes, the crew health has been overlooked. It's been one of those things that's not necessarily high on the agenda for an owner or a captain or whatever, but now is the time to reinforce that. So we have to take this proactive approach, and we work with a lot of charities who see seafarers, etc., to try and get that across. Because ultimately, you know, as Peter said, a happy crew is a more efficient crew, and it's a better environment for everybody on board the vessel. Because if anybody is down or not well, then it really upsets the team. So this is not rocket science. It's just a little bit of a culture change that we need to kind of foster, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Diane, may I just piggyback off what Peter was saying there? There's three very important aspects that have changed over the last few years. Number one, connectivity is easy. Two, tools are easy. And three, access to resources are easy. So you went from a very high barrier of access to healthcare in a remote environment where the communication was expensive and it was hard. The tools were expensive and complicated, and access to the expertise was not always available. Today, it is affordable, it's quick, it's easy. And I think that is the biggest change in the healthcare industry that we have seen. And for us, it is an amazing time to see just how easy it is to connect with people through this channel that Inmarsat has put up. It's I cannot speak enough highly of the paradigm shift for healthcare in the maritime industry that this is offering our crew members, guests, and owners. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. Okay, does anybody have any questions for our two well-informed and fantastic speakers today? Just checking our chat menu. No, we don't. Okay. Well, no problem. Sometimes questions come up afterwards, which is no issue, because in a few days, all of you will be receiving an email with the contact information for the two Peters. So you can follow up with them individually with any additional specific questions you may have. And if you came in late to this presentation, there's also no worry. If you'd also like to refresh your memory on what was covered if you were here from the start, we will be posting this on our YouTube channel, the US Superyacht Association's YouTube channel. We've been recording this since the start, so you can go back and watch it and check out the parts that you might want to refresh your memory on. Speaking of the US Superyacht Association, there are several of you here on our webinar today who are not members, so we are thrilled to have you test drive us in this respect. But we also would like to have you as members, because our membership dollars really do help make this type of programming possible, and it makes our other initiatives such as advocacy with legislators and serving as the overall voice of the U.S. industry possible. So please do visit our website, which is ussuperyacht.com, and also feel free to contact the US Superyacht Association office. Julie Sack and Kitty McGowan there would be happy to give you some background information on what the association does. So thanks again, everyone. Thank you to our two Peters for this very informative and very helpful presentation today. I was jotting a few notes myself. And we look forward to seeing you all healthy and happy in the coming weeks. We have another education webinar coming up next week. As a matter of fact, it will be our last one of the summer, and it's on leveraging LinkedIn advertising. We had a fantastic presentation a few weeks ago with Julie Perry, who many of you know. Julie did a presentation overall on using LinkedIn and really using the fantastic tools that are built into it. So she will be diving into their advertising platform, which is pretty robust. So once again, thank you all for being here. Have a great day. Stay healthy.
And stay safe. Thank you.
Stay safe. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.